Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Unfortunately, our episode with Tom Matthews is going to have to be pushed back a bit due to technical difficulties. So instead, we're thrilled to announce that we have Alex Vincent, aka Andy Barkley from the Child's Play series, here with us to get high and talk about the upcoming show Chucky. He's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one.
Now it's time to get the screening room. Alright, well now we're on to episode 4, which that'll be out this Thursday. But this episode there was no cheeks clapping, but we did see the result of what happened to Seamus getting clapped last week.
Yeah, there actually was no cheeks clapping. I was very surprised, because Slasher is very much the Canadian version of American Horror Story, and American Horror Story always sexes it up, so that's kind of why Slasher does it, so I understand it. But I gotta admit, I'm not a prude in any way, but it is nice to be able to watch an episode and not have some awkward sex scene. I mean, it does get a little old sometimes.
David Cronenberg, week by week, is just more of a fucking asshole.
Bro, when it shows, okay, so there's a flashback to you listeners out there. When you see it, there's a flashback of him before he has his white hair. And I'm telling you, Vince McMahon from the early 2000s or late 90s, when I even had an action figure of him where he had the dark hair and the gray suit. This dude is like the embodiment of Vince McMahon in the horror genre.
And way more ruthless.
I mean, he's like Vince McMahon behind the scenes ruthless.
I don't know that Vince could be quite this ruthless.
Yeah, but the tension is ever high in this episode. Every week the tension's just getting higher and higher, and you're learning more and more about these people, the leads of the show. And there's really not too much that we could say other than the fact that, people are really starting to show their true colors. And John and I's prediction of who we think the killer is going to be, I don't really know. John, what should we say?
I'd say our prediction got buried this week. I mean, we were definitely wrong. So after this episode, you should know who we think was the killer.
Time to reassess and to figure out who we think it is now.
I don't think we're becoming detectives anytime soon. It seems like.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. We wouldn't pass the drug test.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, like Drew said, there's not a whole lot we could say. You're just going to have to watch this one for yourself. And I guess now you're on your own. This was the end of the screeners we had from Shudder. So we'll just be like the rest of you people and just watching every week when the episode comes out.
Yeah, after this week, we're up to speed with all of you. We'll be watching it when you do every Thursday on Shudder. Well, I'm ready to get baked, so, more baked anyway. Let's get into Strainwreck. Now it's time for Strainwreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode. Today, we're smoking Jersey 33, in honor of our guest Alex Vincent, who's from New Jersey. He's an East Coast guy like us. This is a hybrid strain, and it has long-lasting effects of fucking you up. John, check it out.
Damn, that shit smells good. It's got purple in it, but it's almost like it's black.
Mm-hmm.
And then mixed with the orange, it really makes it look even darker.
Yeah, and it just smells like gas. Like it smells good, but it smells harsh.
Does it smell like Old Spice though?
Definitely not. Neither did fucking.
I still stand by it. That smelled like Old Spice.
In any case, this strain is new, and it's pretty much crossed of two unknown strains, but we do know that it's a hybrid. And after smoking a bit of it, I do know that it fucks you up. So uh, I'm going to spark us up. John, what's going on this week in horror history, brother?
This week in horror history.
All right, so this week, Your Next debuted in 2011 at the Toronto International Film Festival. It made its way to theaters in 2013. Drew, you and I actually saw it in 2013 in the theaters. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, ever since we saw it, we both thought it was pretty damn good. I really like it. It's I remember when it first came out, everybody was saying that it like reinvented the home invasion film, and that's why you get some people that shit on it because they're like, this didn't reinvent the home invasion film, and I 100% agree with that. I don't know where it got the reputation of reinventing the home invasion film, but I think what it did do is it made the home invasion film fun again. And besides The Strangers, it was the best home invasion film in a long time.
I think maybe it's because you have the twist as our final girl isn't so she isn't so helpless. I think that's maybe why people think of it as being reinvented. I just think maybe not reinvent it, but it was a twist on the home invasion. You have a final girl who all her life has been prepared to deal with a situation like this, and it was an interesting twist. Nicole really liked the movie, which I was surprised, because it's home invasion slash slasher. I don't know if you could say it that way, but that's what she liked about it as well, and it has Delaware's own Ty West in it.
Yeah, and it's also directed by Adam Wingard of Godzilla vs. Kong fame. It's good to see.
Never heard of that movie.
It's good to see, someone like Adam Wingard, when you see a dude who's used to directing indie horror films actually make it, and to see that this dude's directing Godzilla vs. Kong, which was a fucking great movie. I've seen that movie like probably 15 times with my son. No lie, it's probably been 15 times or more, and it's dumb fun, but he did it right. It's exactly what everybody wanted, and I'm not going to go on about GVK. That's not what it's about, but I just want to take a second to say, congratulations to Adam Wingard, because from someone who started off making low-budget horror films to now directing, like, the movie that broke the COVID box office record, that's friggin' awesome, man. Like, that's really badass. But yeah, the one thing that I wanted to bring up about Your Next, though, is that this film brought Barbara Crampton back, and if there's
hell yeah,
if there's nothing else to take away from the film, we have to appreciate it for giving Barbara Crampton a career resurgence. Adam wrote the role for her and talked her out of retirement. She had dedicated herself to her family at that time because roles have dried up for her. There was no roles at the time. But Adam, worked some magic. And since then, Barbara is on fire with good movies. We Are Still Here is fucking amazing. You've seen We Are Still Here, right?
Yeah, I saw it with you. It's been a while.
And anyway, Your Next is a really good movie and a solid home invasion flick. I love when people say that shit is overhyped, because that's said about a lot of films. And it was said a lot about this film when it came out due to the great reviews that it got, but sometimes the hype is real, and it's there for a reason, because the movie is actually good. Think of The Dark Knight, for an example.
Yeah, and I really liked, I feel like there was a lot of twists to it for a home invasion movie. And I really feel like the person that stood out with their acting in it was Joe Swansburg. I thought he did an amazing job in that movie.
I would agree with that, definitely.
But yeah, I also liked the design of the three masks they had. I thought that was well done. And I was looking here. The movie was only made for $1 million. That was the entire budget for it. And it did. And then, the return, as they did $26.9 million at the box office for a movie from Lionsgate that's not Saw. That's pretty good.
And it's almost, I guess because, like that story's concluded, but with that type of outcome at the box office, it makes you wonder why there isn't more Your Next movies. It's not like it has to even be the same family. Think of like Hostel, for example. Like Hostel 3 had nothing to do with Eli Roth or anything. It's just a whole new scenario, all new people. Like with that type of turnaround, I'm surprised there wasn't a cash-in of like straight-to-video like sequels.
Was Hostel 2 done by Eli Roth? Was
Yeah,
involved
he
in
did.
the
He did
second
1 and 2, and then
Okay.
like just 3 just came out like out of nowhere. I heard nothing about it, and then all of a sudden it was like at Redbox at a Walmart that I saw it for rent. I'm like, what the fuck? And I looked it up, and I was like, okay, it has absolutely nothing to do with him, and obviously that's why a lot of people haven't heard of it. It just died. Like they tried to keep the series going, and it just died. It should have died after the first one. I didn't like the first one.
I like the first one, but that came out right around the time of Saw, and I had a lot of people that were telling me that Hostel was better than Saw, and I can't agree with that. I don't dislike Hostel, I think, as much as you do. I would even argue Hostel 2's better than the first one.
I agree. I like Hostel 2 more than the first one as well. My problem with Hostel is that I'm a stickler for story and content, and I just feel that like Hostel was just nothing but tits and partying for like the first like 40 minutes, and then people just getting brutally murdered. I didn't give a shit about anybody. I didn't care. Like I felt like it was just gore. I felt like it was just like, oh, let's be brutal. And it's like, I am fine with the brutality. I'm fine with the gore, but the acting and the silly line, the dialogue was just terrible. It's just like, there was so much about the movie that I didn't like. And I just feel that I respect Eli Roth as a horror fan. Nobody's questioning his horror knowledge or his horror fandom. That's legit. But I really do feel like Quentin Tarantino liking Hostel and putting his quote on the movie, that's what sold it. I don't feel that movie would have done nearly as well as it did if it wasn't for his name on the poster or on the Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit away from our horror history here, but main takeaway, you're next. Great movie.
Yeah, back to it. Yeah, you're next. Great movie. And check out Adam Wingard if you haven't, or if you're not familiar with his stuff. Check him out. He is doing the Thundercats movie, I believe, next. So that should be awesome. If he's the dude who did Godzilla vs. Kong, I have a feeling that's going to be a fun one.
And now it's time to get to Puff Puff Ass, the segment where Drew and I answer questions that you send us through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at High on Horror 420, and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
I'll start us off here with a question from Jade from Lincoln, Nebraska. She asks, you guys said you're not fans of the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Nope.
I personally loved it and think that Jackie Earle Haley did a fantastic job. Who would you cast as Freddy in another remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street? Keep up the great work. Loving the podcast. Jade. Okay, to start, thank you for the compliments and for listening, Jade. And as far as Jackie Earle Haley goes and the recasting of him, I think Kevin Bacon would be a great Freddy. I actually talked to Robert Englund about this at a convention, and he agreed with me, or we agreed with each other, rather. But Kevin Bacon has the facial structure, the build, and he can act his ass off. I love Kevin Bacon. Stir of Echoes is such an amazing movie, and it is so overlooked that it's a sin. He does horror very well when he does horror. So yeah, my answer is the Bacon. However, I will say, Jade, to correct, what you said, I never had a problem with Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy. I think he did a great job, and I agree that he's a skilled actor. It wasn't his performance; it was the story, and the whole movie just seemed half-assed and rushed, and it just seemed half-assed and rushed, and they weren't trying to make it a legendary film like they should have to honor its predecessor. I disliked the movie as a whole, but Jackie did do a good job, although I don't like his makeup, but that's not his fault.
Yeah, that makeup was pretty god-awful. If I had to pick somebody, he just recently played another horror icon, but I think Bill Skarsgård would be a good choice.
Oh, that is a good one. That is a really good one.
I feel like kind of with that facial structure, I feel like
he's a very physical actor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think he'd be good for it.
You got the lighter?
Yep, there you go. Jesus, stop interrupting me. Damn, where was it? Another one. This one might be an awful off the wall, but I just think what he could bring to the character, not necessarily the physicality part of it. Willem Dafoe. I feel like he's good at just playing like fucking out there people.
He would look fucking creepy as Freddy, dude. He's too old. Like, I don't mean that as disrespect, but somebody that old looking with the Freddy makeup, and he's already weird enough looking. Like,
I know
that he would be sinister. He'd probably be creepy as hell looking. I would like to see that photoshopped. I'd like to see somebody make that happen. That would be crazy. His age makes me question that, but I do feel like he would make a creepy ass looking Freddy.
Or here's an idea. Tell me what you think. Robert Englund.
He just keeps the part. Nobody else fucks with it. I'm cool with
I
that.
mean, that's the way it should have went.
I agree. I think that they should just make one more Freddy movie. And again, at the convention that I was at, Robert Englund had said that he was down for playing Freddy at least one more time. I think that, like, to combat the negative aftermath of the remake, they need to do another Freddy movie with Robert as Freddy, where they really kill him off. Do like another like Freddy's Dead, but like not one that doesn't suck, and really end it, and then don't remake it and let it go.
You hear that, Nicole? Freddy's Dead that doesn't suck. Moving on here. Dan from Philadelphia, PA. Speaking of Philly, PA, Kevin Bacon's from Philly. He wanted to know if there was any movies that made us cry, horror movie wise, or affected us. I will say it's not a new one, but I've always said Alex Vincent playing Andy in the mental facility when they put him in there. He does such a tremendous job that I do feel bad, like this kid's really going through it. Movies that really made me sad though. I mean, there was I would have to say Rob Zombie's Halloween, probably. That made me sad, angry, all kinds of emotions.
Here we go.
I won't get off onto another tangent about how fucking terrible that movie is. But Drew, you got it?
Yeah. I would have to say it's the 2007 Spanish horror film, The Orphanage. I didn't cry at that movie. I haven't cried at a movie since Terminator 2. But
good choice.
But yeah, I would say The Orphanage, because that movie, like, when you find out the twist of the movie, it's a ghost story, and when you find out the twist, it's this woman looking for her lost son, and when you find out the twist of the movie's very like scary, and then when you realize what's going on, and you actually kind of realize that everything wasn't scary, and that like it just turns into like a really sweet, sad story of loss, and it didn't choke me up, but that was like the most recent film that I can think of or remember that had an effect on me, where I actually thought like, damn, this is pretty fucking sad.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head really think of anything recent, but that is a good choice, and I think I'll still stick with Rob Zombie's Halloween.
All right, enough of this. Don't forget to write in your questions to us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at highonhorror420, or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. The messages have been blowing up lately, and we appreciate it. Write us. We'd love to hear from you. Now it's time to get into our review/discussion of this week's films, Child's Play and Child's Play 2.
Starting out with Child's Play 1, we start out with the Lakeshore Strangler Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, being tracked down by Detective Mike Norris, who's played by Fright Night's own Chris Sarandon, to a toy warehouse. As Ray bleeds out, he recites a voodoo spell on a good guy doll next to him. After that, we flash forward to Andy Barclay's birthday, played by today's guest, Alex Vincent. All Andy wants is a good guy doll. His mother, played by Catherine Hicks, recently lost her husband and is working a retail job and is unable to afford the doll for Andy. While at work, she gets a tip on a cheap doll. She meets some grungy-ass looking street peddler selling it on the low. Anyway, Andy's being babysat by his mom's friend and co-worker Maggie, played by Dina Manoff. She sends Andy to bed, but finds the TV on and his good guy doll, who's named Chucky, in front of it, watching the news about the previous night's shootout. Maggie confronts Andy for putting Chucky in front of the TV. He swears it wasn't him. Maggie finds Chucky back in front of the TV once again watching the news. She turns it off and goes back to the kitchen. She puts a dish away and then turns around to catch a fucking hammer to the fucking face. She goes flying out the window to her death. And then Mike Norrison's investigating the scene and they notice good guy's shoe prints on the counter. They also match the shoes Andy's wearing. Later that night, Andy delivers his best line in the movie. Chucky said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved. Did the voodoo spell work? Is Charles Lee Ray Chucky, or is Andy seen one too many news reports?
Well, one thing that I wanted to mention was that you said he was a dingy or grungy ass street peddler.
For sure.
He's a street peddler in the street and a freak in the sheet.
That dude needs at least 3 bass.
Well, yeah, of all the killer doll toys, of all of the killer doll movies, clearly Child's Play and the sequel take the cake. Child's Play, you had mentioned that Chris Sarandon was from Fright Night, and actually Child's Play was also directed by Tom Holland, who directed Fright Night, and Fright Night was Tom Holland's first movie, actually. He had penned the script for Psycho 2, and due to the success of that got him his first director's shot, and he did Fright Night, and then here we are a few years later, he did Child's Play, which was another hit and another success. One thing that I want to mention, the one scene in this movie that messed me up as a kid, John, me and you have talked about this movie so many times, but the one scene that messed me up was the Eddie Caputo scene. The scene where Andy gets on the bus with the doll, with Chucky,
Yeah.
and he goes to the hotel, or not, it's like a rundown building. It's not a hotel. It's just like,
it's like a crack house.
yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, literally, it's a crack house. But the thing is because like that made the rest of the movie so dreadful for me because it didn't show you Chucky really. It didn't show you Chucky. It just showed you like his hand turn on the oven. So like after you see that scene, after I saw that scene, that made me scared shitless because I was like, yo, it's really gonna fucking show this doll move. Like it's really gonna show like this doll is real. Like this is really happening. That's when you realize that it's not Andy, and that's when you realize like holy shit, like this doll is alive and like this is crazy, And the dude who played Eddie Caputo, I mean. Chucky, the Lakeshore Strangler, he just gets his goddamn revenge on that dude. Eddie Caputo, played by Neil Guintoli. He definitely meets a nasty demise as Chucky just blows his house up. I mean, or the crack house, as you would say. Just blows that crack house to shit.
Yeah, that and the voodoo doll scene.
Oh yeah. That one's brutal. That's once you've broken the threshold of oh shit, like Chucky is alive. Then they hit you with that scene, and that's the shit that you're dreading.
And the counterpart is Alex Vincent. I mean, he is a child in the movie, but it's just so childlike and innocent that you just feel so bad for him. It's like, he's just taking Chucky to go help commit these murders. He doesn't know what's actually going on. Like, what was the line? Chucky, I'm going to take a leak. You stay here. And then he goes and murders Eddie Caputo.
I mean, here's one thing that I always wanted to bring up. And I mean, I know, like, you can defend Andy Barclay all you want. He was just a kid. He was impressionable. But regardless of if things worked out between him and Chucky or not, Andy Barclay is an accessory to murder. He's an accessory to a lot of murder.
That's true. I mean, I just want to know what kid has a doll that starts talking to him and like, hey, bring me on the bus. Or tells you your babysitter was a real bitch and that she deserved to die. And you just go, okay, and just nonchalantly say it to your mom.
I mean, the other thing is that I've never, it's never been said, but I think it's kind of hinted at that they might have had more privilege. They might have been more wealthy when the dad was around, when Andy's dad was around and everything. Because, you're kind of getting the vibe that, they're just barely making it now. And the one thing that I always wondered was like, why would you let a doll just talk you into going into a crack house like Eddie Caputo's house? And that's where, like, if you grew up like I did, if you grew up in the ghetto and you have a doll, first of all, I don't know why I'm listening to it talk to me. Second of all, if it's leading me to a crack house, I would know, no, absolutely not. So like Andy must have been completely like, just totally naive and probably came from like a better part and like didn't know any better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess the explanation could be is that he tells his mom that Chucky says he was sent from his dad in heaven. But I mean, still, that's a doll like telling you that. That's still a little weird.
Yeah, I agree. I think that to a degree, Andy followed Chucky's. I mean, yeah, things turn out where Andy and Chucky obviously, come to be at opposite ends, and it's like a face-off. Well, it's not really a face-off between the two of them because Andy has like his mom and Mike Norris, and Mike Norris is a cop buddy. Didn't do my research on that one. Sorry about that name. But yeah, it's Andy against Chucky at the end. But I do feel that Andy let things go on. He let the murders and the string of things happen and go on a little too long before he decided, no, let's fight against Chucky.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a lot of death that he is responsible for, but at the end, I mean, he did try to fight him, and I still say the line it makes. There's two lines from Chucky that make me just totally laugh from this one. And that's the one when Andy's creeping through the house and he just pops up and goes, "Batters up!" and just clocks him in the head and just knocks him unconscious. And the other one is when they're in the elevator and the lady's like, "That's an ugly doll." And then you just hear him, and you can barely hear it, but as he's going up the elevator sitting in a corner, "Fuck you."
Actually, that's my favorite Chucky line besides in Bride of Chucky. I'll go to Bride of Chucky real quick. And Bride of Chucky, when they're at that honeymoon hotel, and that that weird couple that are trying to all come in and be like swingers or whatever. The woman picks up the Chucky doll, and he's all scarred up. It's the first film where Chucky was all scarred up, and she picks him up and she's like, "Oh, what an ugly doll." And Chucky goes, "Hi, I'm Chucky, and I wouldn't talk if I were you."
Yeah, that's a good one. My one complaint about Child's Play, I wish they would have made it more ambiguous as to whether it really was Charles Lee Ray inhabiting this, or it was just Andy was just crazy. I feel like it could have. They kind of literally ruined it in the beginning.
Yeah, right away. You know
right away. I think it would have maybe been better if you didn't see that and you're wondering, you could see the news reports about the Lakeshore Strangler, dying in the factory, and then you're wondering, is Andy really just this crazy kid, or is it really his doll came to life?
Yeah, I think that the thing is, that coming from a writing standpoint, Don Mancini and John Lafia, and Tom Holland wrote the screenplay, and I feel that coming from a writing I hear what you're saying, but I feel that from a writing standpoint, that maybe they were like, let's just show that it's the killer doll and try to make the movie about how would a kid explain this and not be looked at as crazy. That might have been the angle that they were kind of going for.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it does add some emotional weight to the scene of Andy at the hospital where he's just sitting in there and crying because nobody believes him that his doll is killing people.
Well, I have two things that I want to ask you. One, I'm going to ask you two things. Okay. One, I want you to tell us, the listeners, the story of how you first saw Child's Play, because you did not tell that story, and I think that needs to be told. And then I have a question for you when you're done telling that story.
Okay, the first time I ever saw Child's Play, I guess I must have been about 4 because the movie was on HBO. And for those of you that are old enough, HBO, back when it was just one channel on cable, it was kid shows during the day. And then at 7 or 8 o'clock, it switched over to just not adult content, but stuff more geared towards the 18 to 49 demographic. Well, my dad was watching me. My mom was at work, and my dad fell asleep after dinner. And I'm watching HBO, and they have kids programming. After that, it pops up and says, "Up next, Child's Play." Me being a 4-year-old kid, I think, oh, I guess it's some other kid's show. Let me see what this is. That movie scared the shit out of me. I remember hiding under the blanket, but I couldn't stop watching the movie, but I was absolutely terrified for weeks, but I just couldn't shut it off.
Yeah, it actually, it had it didn't have that much of an effect. I think part 2, when we talk about part 2 in a bit, we'll go into that, but more things about part 2 scared me more than the first one. But one of the scenes that scared me, this is my question to you. So you having, saying that you didn't know what you were getting into when you were watching the movie, yet stuck it out. Do you remember what was your first thought when Catherine Hicks is shaking Chucky because she realized the batteries aren't in him, and he like wakes up for the first time and starts snapping on her and like bites her. Like, what was your reaction to that as a young kid? I have to ask, because that is like the scene when you're watching it.
I can remember her like picking the box up and the batteries fall out, and me being 4 at first, just like, okay. I was like, I didn't understand why the camera was like zooming in on these batteries. And then I see her pick Chucky up and open the back, and there's no batteries. And me, like, my 4-year-old ass is like, oh shit. I was fucking so scared. And then when he fucking just turns his head around and starts attacking her, dude, that shit scared me so much. That and like, when they end up all back at the house, like, before he gets burned up and everybody's like creeping around and he's chasing them through the house. I think the worst is like for me was when they were in the bathroom and like Chucky stabbing and trying to get in the door. I think that's the one that like terrified me the most, because I'm like, they just burned. Like, I remember after they burned them and I'm thinking the movie's over and I just see there's like no doll. I'm like, oh my God. But I guess that's why we're here talking about horror movies now. Like, I was terrified. I mean, I was 4. That and it, like, that year fucked me up. And like, but I couldn't ever stop watching them.
No, that's just it. Like, that's how you know you're going to be a horror fan. There's people who watch it and they go, oh, I'm done. I can't watch it. I don't know how you can watch that stuff. And then there's people that watch it and they're like affected by it. Like, rather they think it was gross or scary, but then like you catch them watching it again, or reading about another horror movie and watching something else. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, so that's how you know the seed's planted. And, you know, like, definitely at a young age for me and you, the seed was planted, you know, when we were very young. But for a second, let's talk about like I said earlier, the Child's Play films are the best killer doll toys, or the best killer doll movies. Again, I still said that wrong. The best killer doll movies out there. But you know, there are some good contenders like Demonic Toys and Puppet Master, but
only the original Puppet Master.
Yeah, but yeah, agreed. But I will throw out there that Dolly Dearest is a strong contender. It's not as good. I think that the story is not as good. The budget, you know, and production quality aren't as polished and nice. But Dolly Dearest scared the shit out of me. Like, we're not going to go too much into Dolly Dearest, but let me just say that, like, that movie messed me up. Like, the Child's Play 2 and Dolly Dearest were the ones to me that were, like, I was scared of dolls for, like, a good period.
I don't know if that's the other one I watched as a kid. There's so many horror movies that my dad had me watch as a kid in the like early to mid 90s when I was real young that I don't like. I remember scenes from these movies, but I have no clue what they are. And there was another doll movie. It might have been Dolly Dearest. I think that's what it was, but there was another one, in the 90s. It just fucked me up.
Yeah, and the thing about Dolly Dearest is the thing that makes it so scary is like the voice. Like, unlike Chucky, like Brad, you know, Chucky has Brad Dourif's voice, and Brad Dourif the character has always had like a dark sense of humor. Even when you hear what he's saying, because it's a doll, when he's saying fucking shit, you know, it's funny. There's still like a humor to it. But when you like see like the doll and Dolly Dearest, this little creepy ass doll, she's so ugly. And that's the thing, like, it's a normal doll, but then when it's like possessed and walking around and talking, it's so ugly looking. Like, you know how Chucky's face, like you can tell when Chucky's the good guy doll and when he's like actually possessed, how the face is different. Well, like with her, like the doll right away with Dolly Dearest, like the face just goes from like a doll to like fucking creepy, and then in the voice, it's like, so yeah, definitely a creepy doll movie. If anybody out there is looking for an old school scary doll movie, I highly recommend that one, Dolly Dearest. It's very underrated and forgotten about. But again, let's not get too caught up in talking about Dolly Dearest. We got Child's Play 2 to talk about.
And speaking of Brad Dourif, I think the Child's Play remake proved that, just like Freddy, the only person that should be playing Chucky is Brad Dourif. I knew I wasn't going to like the Child's Play remake, but I love Mark Hamill. He does amazing voice work, like as the Joker. But even I was just like, no, this movie's terrible. It's not Chucky. Like, where's Brad Dourif?
No, I agree. He's definitely, his presence or his voice is definitely missing from the movie. I don't know. It's like, there's just something, he sounds so damn angry. There's just something about, you know, I don't know, like it just can't be matched. And like you said, even though it's just a voice, it is sacrilegious. Like maybe once Brad Dourif like isn't around anymore, like, you know, in 20, 30 years or whatever, and somebody wants to reboot it again, and it can be an honest, faithful like remake, then like let's bring it on. But like do it, you're gonna remake it while the dude's alive, and nobody wants that. Same thing that happened with Robert Englund, like, and then Nightmare on Elm Street. Like the dude who plays that part, the dude who owns that role, who no one can fill their shoes, are alive and able to do it. So why are you having someone else do it? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel like any of the speaking ones, like, I mean, like Michael and Jason, you can replace them with like stunt doubles.
Exactly. Yep.
Unless they're, Rob Zombie's one and then fucking talking and shit. I mean, you don't need the same guy playing it.
You ready to talk about Child's Play 2?
Yeah, let's get into Child's Play 2.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so Chucky's back. After the last one, we learned that the only way to kill him is to kill the heart. Well, the good guy company wants to prove that all these people were crazy, and that Charles Lee Ray wasn't really in the body. And I don't know how they don't figure there's something up when the presentation is to take the same good guy doll, clean it up, they go to put eyes in it, and the dude gets fucking electrocuted and tossed through a window with the same doll, but, everybody's just gonna act like that's fucking normal. And then, after that, Andy, we find out, is in a, orphanage, foster home. Well, he's going to be put in a foster home. The cops retracted their story, which I gotta ask you, what do you think their explanation was if they're taking back the story that it's a killer doll? What else? I don't know what logical explanation they could give to their superiors that they're like, oh yeah, that's okay, those people were crazy. Why is there blood everywhere? Why these people die? Why is there a doll that just is burnt to hell with no head and there's blood pouring from the doll's body? Like, I never understood that part of Child's Play 2. But anyway, Andy's going to live with his new stepdad and foster mom and foster dad. Our boy Phil is the foster dad.
My man Beef.
Goddamn Phantom of the Paradise. Anyway, they get to the house. Andy's looking through the house and he finds a good guy doll. And as he naturally would do, fucking shit himself and ran out of the room. Later that night, Chucky's in the back of one of the people from the corporation's trunk. Well, actually, no, back seat. He tried to put him in the trunk, but he couldn't get him in there. He ends up, while he's trying to purchase alcohol for his date, Uncle Charles calls and tries to find out where Andy is. Well, he ends up killing the guy, and he goes to Andy's new foster home, and he finds the other doll, who's named Tommy. And one of my favorite lines from this movie is after he busts his face open, Chucky decides to bury him. Uses a good guy's shovel, by the way, too, to dig the hole. And with his best line, well, second best line, I'll say, "Eat dirt, Tommy." So then Chucky's in the house, and he's back for Andy.
Man, I love Child's Play 2. That was the one that
best one.
Yeah, that's the best one. That's the one that stood out to me. As I mentioned earlier, I remember like going into the video store with my parents every weekend. Like there was a laundromat, and like we would go to the laundromat every weekend, and like right next door to the laundromat there was this video like VHS shop. Like it was old school, and the guy named Ed owned the shop. And my dad was friends with the guy, and we would always go in there and rent stuff every weekend. And I remember the poster of Child's Play 2, like hanging up on the wall with the Jack in the Box with the clown face and Chucky behind it with the scissors, and it says "Sorry, Jack, Chucky's back."
Yep.
That poster scared the hell out of me.
Dude.
I as a kid, I thought and growing up, I'm thinking like that's brutal to put that on a poster where kids could see it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause that really scared the shit out of me before I even saw the movie. I knew going in like, oh man, this is going to be really bad. I'm way too young to be watching this shit.
Dude, I remember it's the same poster. My mom and I went to a grocery store, and then a couple stores down was a video rental place. And my mom knew one of the people at work there, so like she's in the store just like talking to her, and it's like front center as you come in, right behind the cashier. It's just that poster, and I'm just like frozen the whole time, and like they're trying to like reassure me it's okay, and I'm just like, oh man, no, I know, I seen the first movie. Like I know this is gonna be bad, but Brad Dourif absolutely shines in part 2. They really just let him go all out. And it had my favorite line in the movie, which I got him to write on my pop vinyl, when Kyle, played by Christina Lee, slams on the brakes and sends him through the windshield. I know I'm jumping way late in the movie, but goddamn women drivers with Chucky's hanging on the hood is the best line in that movie.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, Brad Dourif really got to cut loose, and I think everybody did. Like, not, I think he probably had the most fun with the stuff that was being said. But I think Alex Vincent's Andy, his portrayal as Andy Barkley was a step up from the first film too. You could tell he actually had matured as an actor in that time, and Christina Lee did a great job. But going back to quotes, you had said your favorite quote, and you know what mine is. How's it hanging, Phil?
My man Phil.
My man Beef.
I mean, let's be honest. Can you fault Phil for his actions in this movie? He gets a foster kid, which I don't know why they adopted him when he clearly didn't want the kid after he heard the stuff. And he still keeps clinging to the story of this killer doll. Like, I understand Phil's actions, but...
Yeah, I think that like he definitely I feel that Phil is definitely short with Andy. He doesn't really give Andy much of a chance.
He ain't playing that bullshit.
He doesn't give Andy much of a chance before he starts losing his cool. I mean, granted that the family heirloom knick-knack that gets used to bust Tommy's face open by Chucky gets blamed on Andy, and they take that they take that on the chin and don't really do anything to Andy. So I mean, I can't say that Phil jumps the gun, but I definitely feel it was like just a few incidences before he was just ready to get all up on Andy, and snap on him and just be real dicky, I don't know. I just feel like there would have been some abuse at some point.
Abuse, holy shit.
The way he was acting, I just feel like he was going to get the belt out at some point if Andy kept talking about Chucky. Yeah.
But here's my thing. They're trying to partially blame Andy for the family heirloom getting destroyed. But his foster mom slept with him in the bed because he was scared. What did he do? Sneak out, go down, bust it up, and come back to bed? Like...
That's very true.
Although... fucking Andy is subconsciously a savage when she talks about how she can't have any kids, and she's like, this is a family heirloom. My grandmother gave it to my mom, and my mom gave it to me. And he goes, who are you going to give it to? And she's like, let's move on.
Yeah, that's that kid honesty that you just don't need.
You're like, God damn it, I know you don't mean it, but stop being a dick.
I want to bring something up to you. By the way, you had brought up how they rebuild Chucky in the Good Guy Factory at the beginning of the film. Did you ever notice how they give him everything new? They buff his freaking head, they shine him all up, but they don't fix his teeth. They scrape his teeth, but they're still yellow and burnt. And then they put him into an actual doll. I'm like, you did not finish that job. You gave my man crackhead teeth.
Yo, and also, why is his skull, made out of metal? That's a kid's doll. That shit's gonna hurt.
I guess yeah, that's true. I mean, it is, that is true, and it's probably heavy as hell, too.
Dude, and how many false endings did we have in this movie? I remember as a kid, there was, at least 2 different times I thought it was over, and I'm like, nope.
And 2 points also that I want to bring up, actually. One being, you had brought up how the scene where Chucky, when he was burnt and trying to come through the bathroom door, really messed you up because that just showed you his persistence. And again, I'll go back to how I said Child's Play 2 more had an effect on me. I remember 1, but not as well. And I think I was a little older when I saw 2, so it stuck with me more. But when Chucky cuts his own hand off, doesn't cut it off, but he pulls it off.
Even though it's a doll, even today, it's still damn, that's pretty gruesome.
It's fucking hardcore, right?
Yeah, but it's still, you think about it, it's a doll, but it still comes out, pretty hardcore,
considering that he can feel and bleed, that's pretty brutal.
But, I mean, Chucky with one hand and a knife hand, I mean, that's pretty badass.
That's what I was going to say, that to me, how you said, the being charred and coming through the bathroom door. The way, he was being charred and coming through the bathroom door in the first one, that affected you. What affected me was the knife hand, because that just showed me God damn, he just will not fucking stop. He gets his hand caught, and instead of going, oh, this is it, he's like, I'm just gonna pull my hand off and I'll jam it. It sounds like from South Park. I'm gonna sneak up on it and jam my arm on the knife. But no, for real, he actually he actually just turns his arm into a knife. And that was when I was as a kid watching that, I'm just thinking, holy shit, like this dude just does not stop. And then like you said, that's why I brought that up to follow up your point about the false endings. Like, you know, you think he might be done when his hand's caught, but you know it's probably not. But you're definitely not expecting him to cut his own fucking hand off and put a knife in it. And then from there, just the false ending after false ending. Like, you know, that like you said.
And that scene fucked me up. Like when Andy falls down the grate and he just like pops up as a kid, that fucked me up. And I gotta say, like, I was just thinking now, like, Child's Play 2, growing up, I watched it so much, but I think it's because I felt like it was on the USA Network, like, every Saturday, and I just subjected my parents to having to sit through it. Because I still remember, like, my dad, like, you watched that last week. I'm like, yeah, I want to watch it again. And then he couldn't find anything to watch, so he's like, fine, I'll put it on.
Well, I want to tell the story to our listeners here real quick. We got to bring this up. We didn't talk about this beforehand, John, but this has to get brought up. Halloween, to you listeners, if you've listened to this podcast, you know that Halloween is John and I's favorite horror film of all time. But, you know, so we've watched that movie like a ton together. Like we watch it every Halloween, probably a couple of times every Halloween. We put it on in the background when we're bullshitting or like setting up for the podcast. Like Halloween was our movie. But like over the last like, you know, year or so, Child's Play 2 has been catching up. Like we've been watching Child's Play 2 a lot together because we love that movie so much. And it just kills me because, you know, I'm 34 years old and it just took me till about like a year ago till John just totally ruined like one of my favorite scenes in the movie for me. Yeah, the scene with Miss Kettlewell played by Beth Grant, when Andy's in detention after school and and she goes into the Andy disappears and she comes back into the classroom and she thinks that Andy's in the closet in the classroom, so she's snapping and being super bitchy and she unlocks the closet door and you see all like the clothing and the sporting activities and the tennis balls and all this stuff, and she's looking around and, you know, can't find anything, and, you know, there's a false scare with like a ball dropping on her, and then Chucky just comes out of nowhere with an air pump and stabs her with it. And then, of course, you know, this is how I see it. He stabbed her with the air pump, and she went falling backwards, and then Chucky persists to beat her to death with a ruler, with a huge ruler. What are they called? Yardstick?
Yardstick.
Yeah, beating her to death with a yardstick. Here's the thing. John just goes to me, you ever notice how it's like Chucky pumps the air pump, and that's why Mrs. Kettlewell falls backwards? And I'm like, no, what? So he rewound the movie, and we watched it, and I'll be damned if Chucky doesn't stab her in the stomach and then pushes the pump in, and then she flies backwards and takes all those desks out. And it makes more sense why she fell backwards like that. But like, I don't know how in all the years of my watching it, I never was able to put it together. I just think it's so abysmal. It's just so like, what the hell?
He has like his little hand, he has his hand and he just has his palm like on the back and just pushes it.
And you actually hear the like where it pushes the pump.
My question is, how much air is he able to generate with like, I mean, it's like an air pump for a basketball or a football. Like,
Right.
it's not that big.
And he generated a lot of air to blow her back like
But
that.
it's still my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's definitely a great scene. I mean, it was just eye-opening because it definitely adds a layer of cheese to that scene that I didn't think it had before, but it's a layer of cheese that I can accept.
I think the school, just everything with the school as a whole's that, and the factory at the end are the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the climax of the whole build-up to Child's Play 2 is well. The whole build-up, like we talked about this before off air, but the whole film of Child's Play 2 was just better. I don't really think anything from the first film is better. I don't think the tension, the scares. By the way, something that scared the shit out of me, I told you more things stood out to me about this movie when Chucky's in the bedroom and he Andy goes to grab the knife and Chucky
Or you mean Kyle?
Kyle, yes, Kyle, that's what I meant. Yeah, Kyle goes to grab the knife and you see his hand grab the knife. But before that, when you just see his two little legs crawl under the bed. Dude, I was on a bed at that time. I was on my mom's bed. It was like off the ground, like like a foot or two off the ground. It was a high bed. And I'm just thinking like, yo, I gotta piss and I wanted to drink so bad.
But I ain't trying to get my ankle cut.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get off the bed. Like that was creepy as hell to me. But
Even though we're not talking about it, he did follow that up in 3 with cut an ankle.
yeah, he did. But yeah, that definitely that stood out to me as a scare for her. Like that definitely messed me up. And the other thing that I was going to bring up to you, something that I thought was kind of funny, I brought it up to my wife, Sam. You know who Sam is. I don't need to introduce her as my wife.
Who's she?
The listeners don't know.
Never met her.
I brought it up to Sam when I was watching Child's Play 2 again. I wonder what Kyle was doing when she was out that night. Thank God that she was out partying or doing whatever.
I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to Christina Lease.
No, you wouldn't be disrespectful to her. Just
I guess it's her character.
The character of
Okay,
Kyle, but
fine,
that's the
character.
thing. Because
she was good at rail.
If she if she didn't come in when she did, Andy was toast.
Also,
so thank God that she was out lollygagging, but that was always something I wondered, because when she came in, she looks like really pretty and dolled up. So I'm like, was she on a date? Was she at a party? Like, is that your answer? What you think was going on? You think Kyle was getting railed?
Yeah. But my question is, why is she coming back through Andy's bedroom?
I don't know.
I mean, like, my other question would be is like, did she sneak out through Andy's window?
Yeah,
earlier?
that could be. Maybe something was wrong with her window.
Maybe I mean, like,
maybe
somebody can send us like the blueprints for the house, and then we can figure out why Kyle didn't go out her window.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the foster parents like would have seen Kyle if she was going out of her window or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody can get John Laffey to send us the blueprints of that house, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. John LaFia, by the way, went on to direct Man's Best Friend, a very good dog attack movie starring Lance Hendrickson. So I definitely recommend that one.
So what was your favorite part of Child's Play 2?
I have to say that my favorite part of Child's Play 2, it's crazy because that's like, there's so many, the whole movie's memorable. I mean, I think I hate to say it's because of my line, how's it hanging, Phil? But the whole basement scene of Andy going downstairs after dark and getting, like the POV shot where you think it's kind of Chucky at first, and then you realize it's Andy grabbing like the turkey cutter, the turkey knife, and the electric knife, and then like that whole scene in the basement, that's probably like what stands out to me, because the how's it hanging, Phil line, but like the build up to that, like Andy and him were fucking duking.
Yeah. I was just remembering fucking Chucky's legs just fucking kicking like on Andy's back as he's like turning. But that's something I meant to bring up earlier, and you talking about the basement scene reminded me. The thing I liked about Child's Play is, I mean, I guess you could almost take it to a parallel of Halloween and Halloween 18, where Andy went from being like super scared, couldn't handle himself, and then it gets to the point in Child's Play 2 where literally nobody believes him, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do this myself. And then that's like where you get him going to grab the knife, go downstairs, like, I'm gonna handle this, and you just see like a change in his character.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's where he mans up.
Yeah, at like 11 years old.
I hate to say it, but at 11 years old, his balls dropped.
And I also like the factory scene at the end, and then I think one of the better kills, even though it's so ridiculous, is the dude getting the eyeballs.
Oh yeah, in the factory. Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
But I thought Chucky was done for the first time after he got sent back in there, and it started putting all those arms and shit on him.
Yeah, they Frankenstein the shit out of him, and then they melt his ass. Andy pours that acid on him, and it's just like, how is he not done at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like, he went back in there, he came out like Lieutenant Dan, he lost his legs, and he got a cart to scoot around on.
Yeah, and then he got fried on the acid after that. That's what I'm saying. That
yeah,
acid
that plastic
part.
Or whatever.
Yeah, that was that liquid plastic or acid or
looking
whatever
like
it was.
A garbage pail kid.
Yeah, right. Had him looking like a charred Dana White.
A charred Dana White. Oh my god. He just swole. But yeah, and then I mean, after this we had Child's Play 3, and they aged Andy up, but
yeah, that was one of the most unjust recast ever. There was no reason to recast Andy Barclay.
I mean, Justin Whalen doesn't do a bad job, but I mean, they could have found a way to keep Andy for a third movie.
I definitely agree. I think that I agree. I think that was one of the worst, injustices. But as a whole, that's what's funny is I don't find that 3 held up to the first 2. Like, I like 3. It's just like the bad Friday the 13th sequels and the bad Halloween sequels. I'll watch it, but there's a serious drop in quality after the first two. Like, definitely not on the same level.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are on their own. Here's what. Do you like better? I know we're only talking 1 and 2, but I mean, we both agree 1 and 2 are on their own. Do you like 3 or Bride better?
I'm gonna go with Bride. I know that you're probably gonna say 3, but I'm gonna say Bride. Yeah, I'm gonna say Bride because 3, again, I was disappointed in 3 from after the first two. It was a step down. Where I feel that Bride was like a welcome, like refreshment, like it refreshed the series in a new way. Where Chucky was back, he was funnier. There was a Bride. I feel that it did something different. Where I feel that Child's Play 3 just kind of tried to like, let's just do the same thing, but now he's older and in school, and so that's why I give the nod. And also, Ronnie Yu directed it, and he did Freddy versus Jason, and his movies are just usually visually beautiful.
Yeah, but I mean, he did Freddy versus Jason, but he did get rid of Kane Hodder.
That is another injustice, another recast injustice that's just not needed.
Yeah, one last thing about Child's Play 2. I gotta say, Chucky had some nice handwriting. for only having them little tiny fingers. I mean, the fuck you bitch was very legible.
It was. It definitely was. And Andy got a lot of shit for that. But yeah, and then, our guest today, Alex Vincent, he, luckily after Child's Play 3 and Bride and Seed passed, Alex Vincent came back into the series to play Andy Barclay again. And he makes a cameo at the end of Curse of Chucky, and then has
I was so hyped in that post-credit scene. I was like, oh shit, it's Alex Vincent.
Didn't we watch it together the first time?
Yeah.
And then like when the credits like popped up, we were both like, holy shit, like we did not expect to see him because we hadn't seen nothing on the internet about it or nothing. And we were just like, oh shit, Andy's back.
I know. Dude, I was so excited.
And Colt was another like refresher because again, since Seed, we didn't have like a Chucky movie for a while. And in a land of remakes, Curse comes out and you're like, oh shit, like it's a continuation. And then that was really good. And then they came out again with Colt, where Alex Vincent has an even bigger part in that movie. He's one of the main players in that movie, and you really see that they're building towards something with his character.
Dude, him smoking weed with the Chucky head, and then he tries to give him the J and he tries to bite him.
I'm just laughing that Chucky's just an OG, man. He's just a head like stapled and nailed to like a wooden block, and he's still trying to hit the J.
And I mean, talk about how you said you just saw like he wouldn't give up. In part 2, my man's ahead and he's still trying to fucking get Andy.
Even if it just means biting him. But like I said, I love that he's got to try to hit the J. Like Chucky's a real G, man.
With that said, I think that's a perfect segue into Burn and Learn.
Well, not yet. Hold on one second. Let's talk about Chucky.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Chucky coming out this October. How fucking hype are you for it?
Dude, I'm super excited, and then I'm like, I don't know how they're going to fucking do it as a TV show, but I'm excited. And I think it's, from what I understand, it's going to be hour-long episodes.
Yeah, and from, I think it's going to be 8 or 10 episodes or something like that. I think we get 8 or 10 hours of Chucky as opposed to, again, like what happened with Ash vs. Evil Dead. You get 5 hours a season versus an hour-and-a-half movie. So the show thing is definitely going to play out.
Dude, it's funny you bring up Ash vs. Evil Dead, because literally the next thing I was about to say was, I also thought when they announced Ash vs. Evil Dead, how the hell are you going to make that a TV show? And it worked out phenomenally. So, I mean, well, we'll see what Don Mancini and crew's got planned.
Yeah, and Don Mancini, he worked on Hannibal, and he did great work on Hannibal, and Hannibal was a beautiful show. And from what we've seen from Curse and Cult of Chucky that Don Mancini's directed, he's really very good with visuals. So I feel that it's not just going to be some like cheap, forced, rushed Chucky show that's like, oh look, they brought Chucky back. I really feel that, especially from the trailer, the attention to detail is there, the love of the character is there, the respect of the series is there. Everybody's back doing their shit, and I just feel that like we're really in for something special with this.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, like, you even look at the look of Bride and Seed and compare it to Curse and Cult. Curse and Cult look better. Yeah, there's been more time, but those had like big studios behind them, where these were direct to video ones, but they still cinematically looked better.
I agree.
Now I think we can get into Burn and Learn.
Let's get into Burn and Learn.
Oh.
Learn and learn.
All right, we'll start with Child's Play 1. The first draft of the script was completed in the summer of 1985 and referenced Chucky as Buddy, who came to life after mixing blood with Andy and killed those against Andy. For example, the babysitter Maggie, teacher, and it manifested Andy's loneliness and isolation from an overworked mother and an absent father. In addition to being more of a psychologically driven horror film, Buddy also only came alive at night when Andy was asleep.
In an interview, Don Mancini said in the original script, Child's Play was at first a satire on toy marketing and merchandising for children, before the idea morphed into a horror film instead.
Chucky's full name, Charles Lee Ray, is derived from the names of the notorious killers Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated JFK, and James Earl Ray, who assassinated MLK.
Despite their long-running collaborative effort to bring Chucky to life, voice actor Brad Dourif and special effects wizard Kevin Yeager never met in person until they were both guests at a horror convention in May 2018.
And the original work print of the movie was over 2 hours long. Other sources mention that the original cut was 2.5 or near 3 hours long. Some of the scenes that were deleted or cut down are in, for example, the opening. The original was going to have Mike dressed in women's clothing in order to catch Charles Lee Ray. If you watch the normal opening scene closely, you can see that Mike throws a dress to the ground when he chases Ray down the street. Second, Andy showing Chucky his room. Another one was Andy falling into a ditch in front of Eddie Caputo's hideout as it explodes. Chucky's witch doctor friend John / Dr. Death performing a ritual dressed in voodoo priest clothing. Next, Andy befriending a young girl during his time in the mental hospital. Later on, Chucky tricks the same girl to help him out to find Andy. And also more footage of Chucky stalking Andy at the mental hospital. The DVD commentary also mentions an alternate ending in which Mike is the one that kills Chucky by decapitating him with a baseball bat. The deleted scenes of Child's Play have never surfaced in any form online, and director Tom Holland said the scenes were in his script. He shot them, but was deleted as he cut the movie.
A possible translation of the chant, which is Haitian Creole, but mistaken as French, is as follows. I call to thee, Damballa, give me the power I beg of you. Leave me mercy from this mortal coil. Give me life beyond death. Move my mortal soul into this vessel. I command thee, Damballa. I command thee, Damballa. I command to Damballa. Move my mortal soul into this vessel. I command to thee, Damballa. I command to thee, Damballa. I command to thee, Damballa. I hope I just didn't bring some like voodoo shit down on me for reading that out loud.
I mean, I don't know what you don't have your hand on anything, so I think you're good. John Lithgow, Gary Oldman, and Andrew Divoff were rumored to consider playing the role of Charles Lee Ray and voice Chucky.
Child's Play continues a theme in Tom Holland's films of people seeing something supernatural, but they can't get anyone else to believe them. i.e.g. Scream for Help, 1984, Cloak and Dagger, 1984, and Fright Night, 1985.
Tom Holland was influenced by the Hillside Strangler to make Charles Lee Ray have a partner.
Don Mancini and John LaFia were barred from the set after threatening to sue Tom Holland over a writing credit dispute. And with that, we're going to move on to Child's Play 2. Child's Play 2 is the shortest Child's Play movie, clocking in at 84 minutes.
Tommy, the good guy doll, was named after the OG's director, Tom Holland.
After knowing that they have beef now, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I kind of thought that as well.
Chris Sarandon was supposed to be in Child's Play 2, but his scenes were cut from the film due to budgetary reasons.
Brad Dourif rarely appeared on set due to the fact that his voiceover work was recorded in advance so they could match the doll's mouth with the words.
This was Christina Lisa's film debut.
Child's Play 2 came in number 1 at the box office.
If you're a Seinfeld fan, check out his apartment. In the background on a shelf, you'll see a VHS copy of Child's Play 2.
This was Adam Wiley's first film role.
Although Kyle is a teenager in the film, actress Christina Lise was 25 when she played the part.
And lastly, Phil and Joanne were originally named George and Mildred in the script.
All right, now let's get on to talking to our man Alex Vincent. Alex Vincent is best known for his role as Andy Barkley in the Child's Play series. Over the last 30 years, he's still outwitting the little shit Chucky. Alex is also the owner and producer at AV Productions Recording Studio in Clearwater, Florida. Welcome, Alex. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So, yeah, I got to ask you, what are you doing? Are you rolling something right now?
I am, yeah. This is the High on Horror podcast, right? So I can't be not high.
Absolutely.
I can't be not high while we're talking about horror. I'd be on the wrong show.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm setting that up right now. So I'm in Canada, where, very wisely they made pot completely legal, and there's dispensaries on every other corner in Toronto. So yeah, it's an eventuality for the rest of the country in the States. I think it's just going a little bit at a time. I live in Florida, and sorry, there's fire trucks going by. You could probably hear them. They'll be gone in a second. I live in Florida, where I have a medical card that I've had for the past couple years, like since the day it was available. I was ready and had it. Believe it or not, the first dispensary in my area was in the same complex as my recording studio.
Oh, no shit.
So I was already there for a few years, and then there was a weed store right in the same complex as my recording studio. It was pretty perfect.
That's awesome.
Now they're like spreading out. There's a bunch of them, but yeah, I think the fact that alcohol is legal and weed is illegal, it's about one of the stupidest things human beings have ever contemplated and decided on, because that makes absolutely no sense. So.
Absolutely. It's like, it's weed is harmless, and anybody who says otherwise is a fucking idiot. If you're on other things and weed, sure, but I've never seen anybody do anything like absolutely ridiculous because they were smoking weed. It's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
What strain are you smoking today? What are you rolling up?
So what I'm rolling is, I'll show you. Hold on. I've tried a bunch of different stuff since I've been here, but this Grand Theft Auto packaging.
Very nice.
Cool. And this is sherbet. I've had a bunch of different stuff, but
yeah, we're smoking Jersey 33 here. Got this
Jersey 33. You're not in Jersey though, are you?
Jersey 30. No, we're in Delaware, but we're from the East Coast.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Well,
I grew up in Jersey, so I think I got to try that stuff.
Yeah, that's why we saved this strain to smoke for your interview.
Oh yeah, awesome.
How often do you smoke, man?
Oh, I smoke all the time. Yeah, I smoke pot all the time. I have for a very long time too, since I was like, I don't know, 13.
Oh, so you got started early like we did.
Of course. I was born in 81, so I grew up, in the 90s. And in the 90s, I don't know, everyone I hung out with surely smoked weed. Most of my school did in high school. I went to Hackensack High School. I grew up in a small town called Maywood, and Hackensack was the neighboring big town. Like, my town didn't even have a high school, so everyone in Maywood went to Hackensack High School. And so, yeah, I mean, it started kind of then, cutting class and smoking weed on the tracks, like. But yeah, I mean, I've in my life, I've gone through quite a bit. There's a lot of death in my life, and I've been on different types of like antidepressant type things, but I never stay on them long because I don't like how I feel on them. I think it affects my personality in a way that I don't care for. So pot is what's really helped me kind of tolerate life, as you guys can relate, I'm sure, and so can so many others. So yeah, it's just kind of the medicine that works well for me. And for now in 2021, for it to be recognized as a medicine for that very purpose is, finally on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. I smoke to medicate as well. I mean, it is fun to smoke, but usually, I have PTSD, so the medication that I'm given, it just puts me to sleep. It just makes me tired, and so it's like, it's not for me. I smoke a little joint or a fat blunt or a bowl pack, and I'm good to go. I feel like me.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not gonna take something that's gonna make me not feel like me. It's that simple.
I agree. I agree. And also those medicines, I mean, first of all, it's like it takes a lot of trial and error to find the antidepressant medicine that's right for you. Sometimes the path to get to that can be a very difficult one if you're taking something that doesn't work well with you. Because first of all, you have to deal with coming on a new medication like that, but then coming off of it, and both change the way you feel. I don't know any. I've never gotten a bag of pot with a label that say may cause suicidal tendencies. You know?
Correct. Do you have a favorite strain?
Okay, so in the 90s, there was this, they were calling it lemon haze, which I've seen many types of lemon haze since that is not the same as what we were smoking then. This stuff, so besides that specific unavailable strain that hasn't been around for 20 years, which was absolutely my favorite. For someone like me who's been smoking for so long, flavor is really what gets me. I don't, I can add some like crumble or wax or concentrate to make any weed stronger if I wanted to, but
Definitely.
but the way it tastes is most important to me. So I really like anything that's like tangy and real sour. Like straight up tangy is probably my favorite. Anything that has a real particular and strong and tasty flavor to it is my favorite. Jack Herrera always tastes real good. Yeah, it all comes down to flavor for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the flavors. And we're both stoners born in the '80s. You and I actually share a birthday, April 29th.
Oh, get out of here! Happy birthday!
Yeah, happy belated to you as well.
Yeah, happy belated. That's cool, man. Are you left-handed also?
No, I am not left-handed.
All right. Well, we don't have that much in common then.
So what do you like to do when you're smoking?
Well, I mean, my favorite joints of the day, you mean? Like, what are my favorite? Like, I'll smoke kind of, I mean, unless I have like a really big session coming in the studio or, I have to go somewhere, whatever, where I don't really feel like I need to be high, I won't be. But besides that, I pretty much smoke all the time. So my favorite joints of the day, though, are like when you're done with all your work and you sit down and watch a show, roll a joint that's big enough that it lasts you through most of your show. And you just sit there and smoke. My girlfriend happens to smoke a lot too, so the joints towards the end of the day that I get to just chill and watch our favorite shows together. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I'd say watching something is definitely one of the best. So is a joint your favorite way to consume?
It is. Yeah, I don't like bowls because the first hit tastes really good, and then after that, it kind of just tastes like a bowl.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that. And then bongs, like, it made me cough too much. My lungs just can't really handle them anymore. Never really could, honestly. And then I like concentrates in vape pens. Like I got this one in Canada here called a Shatterizer. So any kind of concentrate like Shatter in one of these, although the more you hit on it, the less it tastes great too. But the first couple hits of like a concentrate, it's all about flavor to me.
I agree with you on bowls, and also I feel like bowls a lot of times you almost kind of get like the resin kind of comes to the end more than anything else.
That's like my nightmare. Like one time, not that long ago, I was at a convention and someone had like a one hitter, those cigarette looking one hitters.
Yeah.
And so outside, I was like, here, take a hit of it. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't really like those things, but whatever. I took a hit of it, and like, it must have been a month's worth of goop sucked right through into my mouth. I almost threw up. It was just horrifying. It's like, Yeah, I don't like that at all. So yeah, I'm pretty much all joints.
Now, getting into the first Child's Play, did you have much interaction with Brad Dourif on set?
No, not really. In the beginning, he was there before we really got going, and we did like read throughs and stuff with him, and I got to meet him, and he had those scenes on camera in the beginning. So I met him in the beginning, but then after that, he just records his stuff elsewhere. I never really saw him again during the filming of part two. I don't think I saw him at all. Um, and I see him at conventions, so I've had time hanging out with him outside of there. But on the sets, I haven't seen him at all during this show. I haven't, which isn't to say he wasn't here at some point, but I haven't seen him. And in Curse, luckily, because he also had on camera stuff in Curse of Chucky, we were there at the same time. And my one day of shooting, he was actually there watching. He was sitting in Video Village watching me do that scene, and he was like full of compliments about it, which from an actor like him was just awesome to hear.
Did they, when you were doing your scenes, did they have somebody else read it, or did they play the audio
No,
from Brad?
thank God they have his voice on playback. Um, that's not always the case, but mostly that's the case. Because yeah, when you're acting to an inanimate object that, especially as a child, you're supposed to be terrified of, it's not really the same when a script supervisor's like, you act like you never seen a dead body before. Like that doesn't work. It doesn't work coming from the female script supervisor on the other side of the room, as it does hearing Brad's voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think many people could do what Brad did. Uh, Now, my fiance, Nicole, she grew up terrified of Chucky. She still doesn't like the Child's Play movies. And she wanted to know, were you ever scared, or did anything become too much on the set when you were making the Child's Play films when you were younger?
No, never. First of all, I was a really bright kid. I mean, I was really far above my age. Um, so I totally understood what the movie was, what it was supposed to be, what our goal of making it look scary to other people was. And then the puppet itself was like the coolest thing you'd ever see as a kid. I mean, it was this like $1 million animatronic puppet with wires coming out of it and guys on the side of the room making him look and say things at me. I mean, I wanted to be a puppeteer. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Um, so no, and it was never scary. I mean, there were a couple things that they tried to keep me from seeing. I think I remember in the first film, the burnt up Chucky that stalks me down the hallway. They thought that would be too much for me to see, so I didn't. And like when the doctor was baking, when with the shock thing on his head, and the doctor Ardmore was frying. I didn't see any of that. Unless you're sharing the screen with someone, individual coverage, you're barely ever looking at what's there in the film.
Yeah, and you mentioned the hospital scene. I have to say, people always talk about Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone. But what you did with Andy in that hospital scene, every time I watch it, I just feel so bad for Andy. Like, you do such a great job. Like, for a child actor, how were you able to, like, kind of channel those emotions? Because, I mean, it comes off as real. It's just,
Yeah.
for a child actor, it's an amazing job.
Well, my memory of being 6 is spotty, obviously. But what I recall about that scene is that I knew, like, it was on page 48 or whatever. I knew it was coming. I knew when I got there that I had this crying scene. I knew for the weeks before it that I was going to have to do this crying scene. And so I think the anxiety of doing it helped me kind of get there already. I was already like scared to do that scene. And I had a really good acting coach, Margaret, who helped me tremendously. Um, Everyone else's memory of what happened is a little different, which is that Tom Holland was really just like laying into me and yelling at me and telling me, your parents are getting divorced, which they were, and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, even if that is the case, I don't hold that against him because I was a tough kid. Like I I knew the goal. I knew he wasn't saying things to really upset. The goal was to make that really real and believable. So, yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of praise for that scene my whole life. And, when you're a kid who's actually invested in this, it was important to me. I had been auditioning for a lot, and like this was my first film I got, and I knew it was going to be a big deal. So it meant enough to me that a scene with some gravity to it led to anxiety for me. And that anxiety helped me get to where I needed to be easier. But I also could still do that. I mean, I cried in some little cheap movie that we made in 2013, and I was surprised how easy it was for me to do that. It's actually, I'm not that surprised. Like I said, I've had a lot of death in my life. I've had a lot of things that were very difficult for me to handle. So it's really easy to tug on some emotions that can get you to there. It's not as difficult as it feels like it's going to be. I could listen to a song and like start crying like halfway through it, almost every time I want to.
Hmm. Yeah, and the other question I had about Child's Play is, after Maggie's death in the original, you as Andy tell your mother that Chucky said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved. Now,
Yeah.
as a kid actor, getting to be able to like cuss and not get in trouble for that, was that like the coolest thing?
No, the opposite actually. So I've told this story a lot, but it kind of that line kind of helped me get the part in a sense, because I auditioned for it in New York maybe twice or maybe even three times, and I had a final callback in LA that they flew me and my mother out to Los Angeles to audition against. In my memory, it was two other kids, so there were like three of us up for the part. And in this audition, my mother was actually in the room with me while I was auditioning, which even as a 6-year-old was rare. Like they'd wait outside, they send you in, you do your audition. And she was in the room with me, and we got to that line, and I was so uncomfortable swearing in front of her that I pretended to have forgotten the lines. We got to that part, and I went, oh, I forget. I forget what the line is. I'm like, okay, we'll start over. We started to it. I did the same thing. Then I got up and ran out of the room and locked myself in the bathroom. And my mother had to come in and find out what was wrong. And I said, I don't want to say that word in front of you. I was 6 years old, and she went out and she told them what the reason was, why I was doing that. And I think that, first of all, I fooled them. They really thought I forgot the lines. And so they're like, oh, this kid can act. He fooled us. But I think also maybe the innocence that displayed was perfect for Andy. Andy was a really sympathetic character because of his innocence. And, and I think a lot of people also overlook the fact that this kid just lost his father, which, would be very traumatic for a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, whenever, he died soon before that story picks up. So yeah, I think Andy's innocence was a big part of really making the fear that was soon to come all the more convincing.
Well, you had stated that filming Child's Play, you had no fear whatsoever of like the doll or anything. I was thinking, going into this interview, it would be the opposite, because like I was thinking that even if you weren't scared of like the doll, maybe that sparked something else. Like, were you scared of any toys because of being in Child's Play? Like any sort of like nothing really
No,
scared you? Really?
no, the opposite is true. I wasn't scared of toys. I wasn't scared of movies. I wasn't scared of horror films. Wasn't really scared of anything. I mean, scared of things, sure, but not like something like that. Like, especially supernatural things. Like, I never, even as a kid, I knew that was not possible. I knew that a serial killer putting his soul into a doll is fantasy. That's fiction. That's not. It's not real. That's not going to happen. So no, I didn't have. No, I wasn't. I wasn't afraid of anything like that. I mean, I taught myself to read on that Child's Play 1 script. And I read it so many times that I had all my lines and all everybody else's lines memorized,
Oh
to the
wow.
point where if they ad-libbed a little bit, I was like, no, that's not how the line goes. And they had to go, no, it's okay. You could change it a little bit. Like, I really was a bright kid, much brighter than I am now, which is fairly intentional.
Yeah, that goes for all of us sitting here. I gotta ask you about Child's Play 2. That's me and John and I's favorite Child's Play in the series. Can you tell us like a memory? I know you were young, but is there like a behind the scenes memory, like favorite memory, or anything like that that you could share with us, or have you smoked too much weed since
Absolutely.
then?
No, no, no. I remember plenty about it. I don't remember much else about being 8, but when you're making a film on the Universal Studios backlot in Los Angeles as an 8-year-old, you're going to remember things. And what I remember most, besides the fact that Don was on set and got along great with him, and he took me to the movies, and I got along really great with Christine, and John was such a sweet guy. So it was fun being there. But I mean, one of the best memories that I had during that was the fact that it was on the Universal Studios backlot, and I was such a huge fan of Back to the Future. It was my favorite thing in the world. And they were filming Back to the Future 3 a couple sets over. And I got to go and take a tour of the set and have lunch with Michael J. Fox in his trailer,
Oh, that's awesome.
and yeah, like sit in the actual DeLorean, and like so yeah, I mean
You were living the dream, dude.
that was one of the most exciting days of my life. So yeah, I have to put that high on the list of fun memories that I had from that.
Well, yeah, that's that. Like I said, you were living the dream, man. That age, chilling in the DeLorean. Come on, that's fucking awesome.
I know, I know, it's great. But now and then, then I have to be a normal human being for the rest of my life after that. Led to some. It's a weird feeling to feel like I was living my best life as a 6 and 8-year old. You know.
I mean, I understand if it makes you feel any better. I feel like my best years are behind me as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Long behind me. But yes and no. I mean, I'm doing something really fun and exciting right now, being a part of this upcoming show, which, I mean, of course, I've read everything. I've been there. Well, they filmed a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things. I know everything that's coming for you guys. And it's so good. I mean, it is really so good. And I think evidence of that, I was in the last 2 films, Curse and Cult, and they were kind of like corned beef to people. You either love it or you hate it, and there's really little in between. The comments and stuff from things from Curse and Cult were a very mixed bag. Of some people were so complimentary and absolutely loved it. I've heard plenty of people say it's their favorite in the whole franchise, like Cult of Chucky or Curse of Chucky. But I've heard tons of people that absolutely hate those films.
hmm
So we put out the trailer for the TV show like a week ago or whatever it was, and like the last one I checked on YouTube had 3,000 likes and 67 dislikes.
hmm
That's like 99% positive. Um, so that's really encouraging because we're working really hard on this. It was ambitious as hell to change this into a long format like this. We were making a 90-minute film every 4 years the past few years, and now there's 8 hours worth of the show that we're filming over a few months. So it was definitely ambitious, but I think it's paying off so far because people seem really excited. And the stuff I've seen, I mean, is even better than what's in the trailer. So,
Well, I was gonna ask you, yeah, Jennifer Tilly and Fiona Dourif, they carried the series after the Andy character left the story, but now you're in the mix. It's like the two worlds collided. What's it like working with
yeah.
everybody?
Well, I mean, that's certainly the case for Tiffany. With Bride and Seed, I was like in high school and had nothing to do with the Chucky movies anymore, other than talking about them every day, one way or another. At the time, I didn't really like talking about it, but it still was part of my life all the time. Um, so yeah, I watched Bride come out, and people love it, and I had nothing to do with it, and that it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good when they replaced me in part 3, especially as a 10-year-old. I had a really hard time with that. But the reason why I rooted for Bride and rooted for Seed, even though I wasn't in them and a little butthurt, I guess, that Andy wasn't in it anymore, is because how much I love Don, and I know that he was really kind of taking it over and doing what he wanted to do. And I was a fan of Jennifer Tilly. So because of the two of them, I was able to root for it still. And I mean, I know that, their success is tied into the way that it started. But to come back at the end of Curse and then to get a little more to do in Cult and then to be involved in this TV show, I mean, it's pretty amazing, honestly. I don't know how many actors have played a character that was successful at 6 years old and is still playing the same character at 40.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I can't think
so
of
it's pretty unique, and I hope everybody really loves the show. You guys saw the trailer. What do you think?
We're fucking psyched, man. Like we're hype
Yeah.
as shit about it. Chucky looks good. The trailer looked good. The music looks good. What we like about it is you can tell it has that feel of the originals to it. Like
Yep.
that music, the little like that little ding ding music. Like
Yeah.
it's on point. Yeah. So like, what can you tell us about the show? Let's just get into the show right quick. What can you tell us about
Well,
it?
did you see the legacy of Chucky thing too? The longer version, the 14-minute legacy of Chucky Comic-Con thing.
No, I did not watch that.
So you should watch that. It's 14 minutes. It'll give you a much better sense of what's coming. And there's interviews with us in it and stuff. And like, for this trailer to come out and get so much positive attention, and all of the fan favorites are not even in it yet, other than Chucky, and to know that Andy and Kyle are back in it together, that Nika is still in it because she's, first of all, such a fantastic actress. And of course, Tiffany, who is also just a major fan favorite. We were able to put together a really compelling and exciting trailer with no characters that they've ever seen before. So, once others enter the story, I think people are going to be really excited. As far as like giving you anything that's not already on the show, that are not already been released, there's no way that's happening. So.
Did you find much of a difference in production working on a TV show versus a movie?
Not really. Not in this case. No. I mean, it's moving faster. Things are moving faster, I guess, because we're getting through an episode in whatever it is, 16 days or something like that, compared to a couple months working on a film. But the schedule is just a little busier. But making a production amidst COVID protocols is what's drastically different in this experience than ever before. I mean, I'm driven. I'm staying in downtown Toronto. The studio is further away from here, like 40 minutes away. And I'm driven there 3 times a week to get a COVID test, 40 minutes each way and back. We have to wear shields all the time, except for when we're on camera. And, I had to come here in quarantine for a couple weeks, and then another few weeks of like a holding period. So yeah, there's extra challenges certainly in making a production amidst all that's going on. But otherwise, no. I mean, especially since it's Chucky, like how could it feel that much different to me? It's always been Chucky. It still is Chucky. I'm playing this character for the 5th time, so it doesn't really feel much different.
And you had brought up Curse and Colt, and I really liked both of them, and I was excited in the post-credits scene on Curse to see you back. I didn't really understand the hate for the movies. I thought they were solid Chucky entries, but I got to ask you, how much fun did you have torturing the Chucky head in Colt?
That was one of my favorite days ever on set in the Chucky films, because first of all, I got to smoke a joint with Chucky, which I'll tell you how that happened. I mean, the torturing of Chucky was right in line with what I thought Andy should be doing. I thought that it would be perfect if he held on to the doll and was just torturing the shit out of him for years. And then I read the script when it was sent to me, and that's exactly what was happening. So I was psyched about that to begin with. And then I told Don at one point that Andy should smoke. He should still be a smoker, because I take that. First of all, I'm a smoker, cigarette smoker also, unfortunately still. But I took a drag of Kyle's cigarette in Child's Play 2. So I thought to stay in canon, it would be a good idea for Andy to be a cigarette smoker. And so my idea was that I would smoke a cigarette. And he went and tried to get permission for that, and the studio said, no, we don't want him smoking a cigarette, but he could smoke a joint. And Don came back and said, oh, we could smoke a joint. And I was like, I would have suggested that first if I thought that was possible. Are you kidding me? That was like the best news ever. So yeah, for all my stoner friends that I grew up with, smoking a joint with Chucky was a thrill, you know?
Now, were you able to smoke an actual joint, or was it a prop?
Unfortunately not. First of all, it was still not legal yet in Canada when we filmed that. But I don't think that, these are just all, you know, you're not even supposed to drink real alcohol, and that's legal. And like, yeah, I mean, in my case, whether I'm stoned or not, you're getting the same performance, because like it's the same difference to me. I mean, you guys know, like, if you've been smoking pot for a long time, it does not affect you like that. Like, it's incredibly rare, like that you'll get high and you're like, oh shit, I'm high school high all of a sudden. How did that happen? Like, that's so rare. Like, that's never, you know. One time I was in Michigan, and some guy smoked me up in his truck, and they have really good weed there, because I got like that high. I went back to the convention like, fuck, like everybody knows. Like, I haven't thought that in years, you know, because I don't give a shit who knows. I don't. I'm a big advocate of pot. I really think it's helped my life. I mean, like anything that you do in excess, you have to be willing to accept the downside. The downside for me is that I'm less productive than I should be. And that's pretty much the only downside. And I, you know, obviously it starts adding up when you spend money on it all the time. But
Yeah,
aside
definitely.
from the money and being a little less productive, it helps me in every other way. So for me, and it's also the fact that alcohol, like I said earlier, the fact that alcohol is legal makes me want more people to smoke pot more than ever, because alcohol is, I mean, I don't drink that often, but when I do, I drink a pretty good amount. And the stupidest things I've ever done in my life are alcohol related, obviously.
100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely safer than drinking by a huge mile.
Yeah, I mean, it's safer. It's more fun for the people around you, you know. And if you're a regular drinker, almost the chances that you're not a pain in the ass to most of the people in your life is like none. And yeah, you just do dumb shit. I mean, you know, I like to drink too, so it's not that I'm totally bashing it, but I'm just saying, in contrast between the two, you know, I have a really hard time with things that are illogical and people buying into things that are illogical. I get really uptight about that, you know? Like, really, that's where a lot of my anger over the former president sprouted from. Was I just thought that the logic was it was a gap in logic in thinking that was a good thing. You know, so it's not even. It was never policies or anything like that. It was just like I get uncomfortable when I think that we're not thinking things through properly. You know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't understand why it's still illegal, but well, I
No,
mean, lobbyist is
definitely.
why it's still illegal, but
Yeah.
it definitely needs to be changed.
Well, it's on its way. I mean, you know, there's more and more decriminalized states all the time now, and if it's not totally decriminalized, it's medical. I also think that going medical at this point is kind of a hindrance towards decriminalization, because now you have all these other companies that have their hand in the profit pot. So then moving it off of that, you know, people lose money, obviously. Other people start making money. The state starts making more money. If it's decriminalized, absolutely, it's the right way to go. And I just think when states go medical, like Florida did now, like 3 years ago, I think it's going to make it harder for it to become totally legal there. They'll just stick with the medical thing for a while. And I mean, that's kind of fine too, because the truth is they want you to have weed. Like, they'll help you find reasons to why it will help you. You know, people think like, am I going to get approved? I don't think they're going to want to approve me. And the reality is they want to approve you. That, you know, they want to. They know that it helps. Like, for so many different things. So, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not that great in Delaware. We have medical, but a lot of times they're out of stuff. It's so expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from what I understand, Jersey did legalize.
They did. Yep, they did. And that happened, I guess, in November. And there's still no dispensaries yet. So I guess, which is kind of weird. Like in Florida, the day it went medical, they were opening up. Like they were ready. They were willing to bet that it was going to happen so much that they were building the dispensaries already before the law even passed. And I remember asking them even like, I said, well, what if the law doesn't pass? She said, oh, that's going to be quite a problem, you know? But they were so sure of it, and it did. The first time it didn't. The first time it was trying to pass, they needed 60%, which always kind of pisses me off about politics. In what situation? Why would it be 60%? More people agree than less. Why would it ever be 60? And it especially pissed me off in that case because it came in at like 58% and then didn't pass. And then the next time it was like high 60s.
Well, at least you guys seem to have something good going there in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of good things about Florida. Florida gets a bad rap because, you know, a lot of people have given them good reason to give it a bad rap.
The numerous Florida man stories.
I live in what I think is the best part of Florida, which is the Tampa Bay area, Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete. I think that's the best area. I think it's the biggest mix of fun things to do, but not totally manic like Miami and not totally empty like the rest of the state. My mother lived in St. Augustine for a while, and I liked it up there too. But yeah, I just think the Bay Area is it's affordable. You get a lot for your money. You know, I lived in New Jersey, North Jersey. The house that I bought in Florida, which is just like a small 2-bedroom house, would have been probably 3 times as much money in New Jersey. Like it was just so difficult to live there. Plus, it's impossible to stay anywhere near fit with all the amazing bagels and pizza in New Jersey. So it's fun to visit, but living there was not so great for me. I was broke and overweight.
I got one final Child's Play question for you. Do you have a favorite kill in the series?
Do I have a favorite Chucky kill?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because you could be asking my favorite time that I killed Chucky too, which I guess the first 2 films I only just set him up for death, and then I killed him later. Actually, the only doll that I finished off myself was in Cult, actually. But anyway, yeah, my favorite Chucky kill is Miss Kettlewell. You know, Chucky beating a teacher to death with a ruler. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, you know? I hated school.
Drew's favorite was Phil getting dropped on his neck. Mine actually was the same one as the air pump. And the best part, Drew never noticed till I pointed out about how Chucky used the force with the air to send her flying through the desk. And I think it's just the best thing.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. And I also love the long shot where you can still see the ruler coming down through the window.
I think that whole thing was the best scene. The best scene from Child's Play too.
I think so too. But he's got a point on the best one-liner before a kill was probably Phil's. That "How's it hanging, Phil?"
Yes.
I mean it's about as good as it gets too. I also thought killing Grace in Cult was pretty spectacular with the glass shattering.
Yes, that was a good one.
I thought that was a really good one. I also think that there are some really great ones coming up for you. So,
well, we are definitely excited for the series to come out.
Awesome.
And did you have any other projects coming up?
No, I mean, I'm doing sound for a couple features, one called Sorority of the Damned. And then I'm always working with different artists at my studio. My studio is AV Productions in Clearwater, avproductionsonline.com. And I've worked with a lot of bands. We've done some good work there. So that's really how I spend most of my time is at the studio working on audio in one form or another.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome. Definitely, we'll make sure that we post that on social media and stuff, and try to give that a little promotion and
well,
stuff. I wanted to ask you
appreciate it.
something real quick before John wraps us up here. I didn't want to interrupt you guys talking or John's questions, but when you were talking about smoking versus drinking, here was a great example that I was going to bring up. When I get pissed off and I'm in a pissy mood, my wife will tell me, "Drew, go fucking smoke." When they're
Yeah.
pissed off, who gets told go drink?
Nobody. That's the worst
Exactly.
advice you
Exactly.
can ever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe people that haven't thought it through and they're like, "Oh, you should have a drink." But no, that's not, if you're already fired up, that's the last time to start drinking. Um, yeah, I mean, really in every way. It's like, I just think the fact that we spent whatever 80 years with it being illegal and alcohol being legal is like the stupidest thing we have done as people. That and the fact that public bathroom stalls don't go from the floor to the ceiling.
Yes.
How ridiculous is that? We all want it the other way. Every human being wants it to be the other way. They spend millions of dollars on these big production for these buildings, and then they get to the most intimate room in the whole place and like, just a little half thing is fine. Leave a crack perfectly lined up with the toilet. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
We want to thank you definitely again for joining us here today. And can people find you online anywhere?
Sure. I'm on Instagram now, honestly. My Facebook, I just kind of keep friends on there for the most part. And Twitter, I use sometimes. In both Twitter and Instagram, it's Alex_Vincent. I've been doing a lot of lives on my Instagram lately, mostly because I've had so much downtime up here. But yeah, it's been fun. So Instagram is where I've got most of the good stuff, great pictures and stuff.
And again, thank you for joining us today. It was a real pleasure getting to talk to you. I remember the first time vividly that I watched Child's Play. I remember my dad fell asleep, and it was when HBO used to show kids shows during the day. And it said, "Up next, Child's Play," and I thought it was another kids show.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong. Like, I
Yeah.
can vividly remember just sitting on the bed at like 4 years old and just watching it.
Really? Yeah, that's a lot of people got that experience by their parents thinking it was something else and putting it on for them and leaving the room,
Yeah, I was terrified, but I also didn't want to turn it off because I wanted to see what happened, but I'm hiding under the blanket because I'm super scared.
Yeah, but now you're a lifelong horror fan, so it all worked out,
And once again, thank you for being on today, and maybe we'll talk to you after the Chucky series comes out.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. And thank you to our friend till the end, Alex Vincent. I gotta say, it's pretty cool. This is the first interview we've had with someone rolling up while they talk to us. And we 100% agree with Alex that the cannabis laws in this country need to change. And I have to say, it's pretty sweet that when he was making Child's Play, he got to go on the set of Back to the Future 3 and chill in the DeLorean. It's gotta be pretty badass. Join us next week when we speak with Jason Brooks. He was Jason from Friday the 13th, Vengeance, and he's actually in the process of writing and directing the sequel. Don't forget to follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at HighOnHorror420, and you can reach us via email at highonhorror420@gmail.com. That'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
Bye, guys.